December 7th, 1941, 5:30 in the morning. 230 miles north of Oahu, 6 Japanese aircraft carriers are turning into the wind. Engines are warming on the flight decks. In about 30 minutes, 183 aircraft will be airborne and headed south. 215 miles to the west, the USS Gerald R Ford has been at sea since late November, delayed by rough weather on the return from a routine mission to Wake Island. She carries roughly 75 aircraft, 2 nuclear reactors, and a radar system that can see for over 200 miles. Her crew has no idea what is coming, neither does anyone else. That's the scenario. The Ford drops into December 7th as is, no future knowledge, no special briefing, just her standard combat load operating under 1941 peacetime protocols. No war has been declared. What actually happens? At approximately 5:30 a.m., the Ford's E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft is already airborne on a routine morning patrol. The same kind of patrol the historical Enterprise actually flew that morning. Its radar covers everything within 300 miles in every direction. At that range, it doesn't just pick up incoming aircraft, it picks up the entire Kido Butai. 6 carriers, 2 battleships, 3 cruisers, and a screen of destroyers, sitting 200 miles to the northeast. In a modern context, that picture is unambiguous. Under 1941 peacetime protocols, it's far less clear. A massive unidentified fleet is sitting 200 miles away. It hasn't attacked anyone. No war has been declared. The Ford's commanding officer faces the exact same problem that paralyzed every American officer that morning. Incomplete information, no authorization to shoot first, and no certain answer for what he's looking at. On the real December 7th, an Army radar operator at Opana Point spotted the incoming Japanese formation and reported it up the chain. The duty officer told him not to worry about it. The United States doesn't shoot first based on a radar screen. The Ford's commander knows this. He also has a radar screen showing an unidentified fleet nobody told him to expect, 200 miles from the most important U.S. naval base in the Pacific, launching aircraft toward it on a Sunday morning. There's a point where unidentified stops mattering. Every commander can defend his ship from an imminent threat. 183 aircraft heading directly toward Pearl Harbor qualifies. At 6 a.m., the Japanese launch. Within 15 minutes, 183 aircraft are airborne and climbing south. The Ford goes to general quarters and launches her combat air patrol. The Japanese first wave is flying at roughly 10,000 feet, navigating by compass and by the commercial radio signal from Honolulu. The pilots have no radar, no missile approach warning, and no idea anything is between them and Oahu. They cannot see the Ford. They don't know she exists. The Ford's FA-18Fs are already airborne and vectored by the Hawkeye. Their AIM-120D ARAM missiles have a range of roughly 100 miles. The Japanese are flying in tight, predictable formations at steady altitude with no jamming, no warning systems, no countermeasures of any kind. The first Japanese aircraft start falling out of formation before any Ford pilot can visually identify what they're shooting at. The missile finds the target. The pilot doesn't need to see it. Each FA-18 carries multiple ARAMs and can return to the Ford, rearm, and relaunch. The Japanese first wave launched at 6 a.m. and didn't reach Pearl Harbor until 7:55 a.m., nearly 2 hours of flight time. The Ford has that entire window, with the Hawkeye tracking every aircraft's position the whole time. A Zero fighter in 1941 has no radar, no warning receiver, no countermeasures. It's flying in close formation at 200 miles per hour. The first sign that something is wrong is aircraft dropping out of the sky around it, hit by missiles fired from distances the Zero's guns can't reach, by an enemy the pilots can't see or find. There's no countermove for a weapon you can't detect. The Japanese first wave doesn't reach Pearl Harbor. Most of it doesn't reach Oahu. Back on the Japanese carriers, there's no radar to pick anything up. Japan hadn't fielded shipboard radar yet in December 1941. Their naval radar program had only just started a few months earlier. Nagumo's fleet is detecting threats the same way sailors had for centuries: visual lookouts and float plane scouts. The Ford is 200 miles away in open ocean. There is nothing to see. Nagumo's fleet has no idea the Ford exists. What they know, as the silence stretches past the expected contact reports, is that the first wave has stopped communicating. At 7:05 a.m., the second wave of 167 aircraft launches on schedule. Because Nagumo has nothing telling him not to, they fly south into the same problem. By the time any aircraft from either wave could return to report what happened, one thing is becoming clear. Something destroyed both strike formations before they reached their target. Nagumo has no way to know what. The Ford's commander, meanwhile, doesn't need explicit orders anymore. 350 Japanese aircraft have been launched toward American territory, and both attack formations have gone completely silent. This is no longer a peacetime situation. He knows exactly where the Kido Butai is. The E-2D has been tracking every ship since before the sun came up. The Kido Butai keeps a pool of 48 Zero fighters for fleet defense, rotating shifts of 18 Airborne at any given time. The best carrier fighters in the world in 1941, flown by pilots averaging 800 flight hours. Against F-35Cs inbound from 50 miles at altitude, that means nothing. Radar stealth doesn't matter here. The Japanese have no radar. What matters is the F-35C is flying at 30,000 feet, supersonic. To a 1941 lookout scanning the sky with binoculars, it's invisible and inaudible until well after it's already fired. The Ford's EA-18G Growler jams Japanese radio communications, cutting coordination between ships and the CAP before the strike even starts. The Harpoon anti-ship missile carries a 488-pound penetrating warhead and flies the last stretch to its target at 5 to 10 meters above the ocean's surface, below the visual horizon and masked by ocean waves until it's far too late. It hits the waterline at roughly 540 miles per hour and detonates inside the hull. The Akagi displaces 36,500 tons and has no armor against a threat like this, because this threat didn't exist in 1941. Her anti-aircraft defense is manually aimed guns that need a crew to visually acquire a target. By the time any Japanese gunner can see a Harpoon coming across the water, the time to impact is seconds. The Ford has enough Harpoons, LRASMs, and FA-18 strike packages to hit all 6 carriers at once. LRASM, the long-range anti-ship missile, is already operational on the Ford Super Hornets, with a range of over 200 nautical miles and onboard targeting that finds the ship on its own. The flight to the Kido Butai is roughly 200 miles, about an hour each way. Nagumo can order his ships to maneuver, but the E-2D is tracking every one of them in real time. A fleet with no radar can't hide from a system that sees it from over 300 miles away. The Japanese CAP-0 scramble, but they're hunting aircraft they can't find on radars they don't have. The Ford's F-35Cs and FA-18s share a common tactical picture through the E-2D. The Super Hornets stay well outside zero engagement range and fire. The Zeros burn fuel chasing contacts they never locate, run low, and have to recover to carriers that are already being hit. The battleships, cruisers, and destroyers have the same problem. They can fight back once they see something. Nothing from the Ford gets close enough for 1941 guns to matter. The whole fight happens at distances Japanese weapons simply can't reach. It isn't really a battle. It's one side shooting the other side not being able to shoot back. By early afternoon on December 7th, 1941, the Kido Butai is gone. Pearl Harbor takes no damage. The Arizona never burns. The Oklahoma never capsizes. The 2,403 Americans killed that morning are alive. And the Pacific War, the version that defines the next 4 years of history, never starts the same way. What if US Marines fought history's greatest empires? That video is on your screen. Thanks for watching.